have faith in God is not a stagnant state, it's a journey. As a believer, we should grow in our knowledge of God and His Word. Walk with Alan Cutting and many other believers as together we walk the believer's journey.
Aloha, and welcome again to the Believer's Journey. I'm so glad you've come back and watch us and you support us. And I just want to say hello to everybody. I'm so glad that we are here again. We have a really pretty neat little program today. And I want to say hello to all of my sponsors out there. I want to give you an extra hello and aloha. I'm so glad of all your support, all your prayers. And a lot of you know that we have a lot of supporters, or we support a lot of missionaries and people in Moldova and in the Ukraine. So I would like to make sure I let you know they really need your prayers right now. There's a lot going on that a lot of us don't know, but I'm so proud of our missionaries in Moldova and in the Ukraine. They're doing so much behind the scenes that it's just unbelievable. So today we have a really neat little program. We're going to talk about Isaiah 58 today, a little later. But right now, I have a copy of a magazine and called The Beacon in San Antonio, and it's a January and February 2022 edition. And on the cover is talks about a group called the Eagles Flight Advocacy and Outreach. And what we have here is a really neat story that needs to be read. And with me today is the founder and CEO of the president of the group, Pamela Allen. And here she is right here. And hello.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you. Doing good. So I want to get right into this with you because I think there's so much to be said about your organization that I don't want any time be lost. I've read your website. I've read the magazine. For those of you who can pick up this, The Beacon, it's all over all kinds of different Christian organizations. However, you can also go to, I think it's sathebeacon.com. Is it .com? And read the story. And it's just an amazing story. It's really good, and I just encourage you to do so. Anyway, Pamela, so I have to say this real quick. I love your husband. He is great in all kinds of TV shows and movies.
Tim Allen. Well, it just so happens I got the good-looking Tim Allen. The other Tim Allen is the comedian.
And some people hopefully think I am too. But tell us about your ministry. It's really in depth. I noticed that on the surface you do a lot of things, but deep down there's a lot of things that we don't see. And I want you to share with us what you do on the surface, and I want us to go a little deeper.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. Well, we make our plans for what we believe our life should be and where our professions are going to go. And very early on, I started in broadcasting, thinking that this was going to be what I was going to do for the rest of my life. But then God had different plans, and I submitted to those, and now I understand the assignment. And so we, military family, we moved around a lot, and it was during that time that we lived in Europe, and there was a war in Bosnia and Sarajevo. Refugees were coming out, families were hurting, and God had really pulled me in that direction. And the thing about God pulling is that you have to willingly surrender to that, and it won't be such a struggle or a battle. That was an amazing journey. We started helping the refugees coming out of Bosnia and Sarajevo. We also started helping in the Czech Republic with the gypsies who were so outcast, the children, the orphanages, and then there were a couple of mental health facilities. They call them asylums. And so many children that were thrown away and put into those places. So for 3 years, I had the tremendous honor of serving those people. When we came back, I had another daughter. I had a daughter, and I had another son. My youngest son is the one that was the turning point for me as well, because this was my son that was diagnosed with autism. And when he was diagnosed with autism 24 years ago, there was very little known other than what I knew about autism was Rain Man. And we had heard the word autism. That was my first prayer. Please don't let him be Rain Man. I became very frustrated. I will say this openly because I've asked for forgiveness openly, is I became angry with God. Father, I did everything that you asked me to do. I'm following you. You are my strength, and how did you let this happen to me? You gave me a son that his whole world is going to be turned upside down because of this diagnosis, and his whole world was. And so, and at that time too, we were stationed in Georgia, and that was horrible too, because Georgia, in my opinion, was a whole other country unto its own, with their accents and with, when I would say he's autistic, the response was, well, he's artistic. Well, let's give him a crayon and see what happens. And I'm like, yeah, no, we're not going to be able to get through this. We got kicked out of several churches because they didn't understand the diagnosis of autism. And that was painful for me, because church is what I understand is our refuge, our place that we go to stand with other believers to get strengthened, and we were kicked out. So it was a very harsh season for me to see my son go through so much pain. That was hard. Not only did he have autism, but he had epilepsy, and they also said he had mental retardation. We went through a long journey there, and God had me understand that that was just a snapshot. It wasn't the whole picture. And if I just stood firm, and if I just believed that I would see the fruit of all of the labor that it took to invest in my son. And he was absolutely right. Coming out of that, we started understanding more and more the strength and support that other families like us needed. We also saw the impact it had on the mothers. And so 10 summers in a row, I intervened in a mother of a special needs child. I intervened in their suicide attempts. This is a very, very rough journey. And if you do not have the wisdom, the strength of God, then it's going to actually hurt you, not being able to understand where God has you and understanding that part of the journey. So that's what brought us to here, being the advocate for special needs children and families and helping them. But it helped me build more relationally with the people that we serve. We've always done outreach. We've always fed, clothed. We've done that. But to be part of this special needs community and help others see that God is with them if they choose to, if they allow Him to be in that journey with them. We've seen the fruit of it. I'm going to tell you right now, my son is very high functioning. He lost the label of mental retardation. He now works at the San Antonio Zoo, has his own bank account. He also orders way too much takeout food, and he's amazing. And the greatest part of it is that we offer therapy to special needs children and adults. He helps deliver that therapy by helping the children get on the horses, leading the horses, teaching them about animals. We're amazed to walk in God's healing through our lives each and every day.
It's amazing. When I was, and just share something with you, when I was going to the university and studying for the ministry, I was in a program called, Evangelistic Crusaders. We would actually have a group. We would go out to different churches in the area or within a boundary of a couple hundred miles maybe. We'd drive out there. We would knock on doors to have people maybe come into the church, and we would do a revival. I was a guitar player, and I was one of the preachers. So what we would do is we would hold these services every night from like Thursday to Sunday, and we would have to be back for school on Monday. And one of the times in the very beginning I did this, I was preaching. Of course, I pace all over, and I'm also a little more too funny than I should be sometimes. So what happened was I happened to mention that I had a seizure disorder, And at the time, they didn't think it was epilepsy. And I was just told probably last year it was epilepsy. And every other doctor said, no, it's just a seizure disorder. You were hit with a baseball bat. It's just, what it is. And it's other really intelligent neurologist says, no, and he named it and so forth. Well, anyway, I mentioned this. Well, the pastor, after the service, says, don't ever do that. Is what? Don't ever say you have a seizure disorder. People get freaked out. And I thought, wow. So I kind of kept it off to the side and never really said anything about it. But through the years, I've learned that God can and will use that as I am open with it. So I started realizing, because I had a really good chaplain that said to me, don't ask God why this has happened to you. Ask him how he can use you because of this situation.
Yes.
And it changed my whole perspective.
Yeah.
And so when I started, and I knew that then, but when I started realizing that more, I was more open with that and able to actually expand my ministry with people in a more deeper level.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared that, because, when Christians especially see someone who says, well, I'm battling with this, well, that's not of God. Well, okay, let's just drive that back a little. What happened is what some Christians, believers, make mothers feel guilty or put this guilt on them saying, no, you don't receive that. No. You cannot say that your child has autism or epilepsy. Remember, the person, the child in the Bible that had epilepsy, that was demonic. So you don't want to say that. And I'm listening and I'm thinking, wow, how backwards you are. Because first of all, this is an amazing gift and journey that God has given to our family. And we look on this now as thinking that it's given us a broader understanding. I remember when he was little, and he would make noises and flutter and do those things. A woman and a deacon put his hand on him to cast out that demon. And I grabbed their hand very quickly, and I said, no. Before you decide you're going to cast out a spirit of autism, let me tell you that I'm going to first cast out that spirit of stupidity. And so it didn't go over very well, and so that was the reason we were kicked out.
Boy, you're bold.
That's my child. That's my child. You're not going to claim this as any other thing as being we had to understand this is a long-standing journey, and I'm not going to. I got stuck in that anger for a little bit, but I'm not going to give in to that. Quit beating people up that have children with disabilities. I see that as another trigger for some of these moms who try to commit suicide. They're down. Why would you kick them? Give them the word. Give them the support that they need. Give them the love that they need, because God knows we get kicked out of a lot of places. It wasn't just churches. It was trying to get him a haircut and him screaming. We got kicked out of there. I got kicked out of the commissary because he was screaming, and an older veteran took off his belt and gave it to me and said, you young mothers don't understand. Take him right now to the bathroom and go spank him. And I said, I'm sorry. Next time we come out in public, I'll have him wear a T-shirt that says, please excuse me, I have autism. But if he does that, then you have to wear your shirt that says, please excuse me, I'm stupid. So, I do use that word a lot. Please forgive me. But in this journey, I've just learned to get be thick-skinned and to understand that, some people can be malicious, each and every day, but we have to not grow weary of doing good.
Actually, it's so funny. Now, my wife will laugh at this one. He says, because I am really brassy like that too, bold, and I'll say, that's stupid. I'm real blunt about things, and she says, you have no compassion. But I says, no, it's not it. It's if people are going to be stupid, they're stupid. And if they're going to be smart, they're smart. But you call it like it is.
Yeah.
But she thinks, because she's all, and you know my wife, she's all butterflies and candy and everything sugar coated, and she wouldn't dare say anything that would offend somebody. I'm like, forget that,
He calls us to be bold and to be strong and courageous. There's a lot of times in this journey with my son that I'm just thankful that I've restrained myself. But I have to stand for him. That's what we're called to do. That's my child, and I'm going to defend him. But it's the tenacity, a mother's tenacity, that he's made it as far as he has. I changed my whole vision and perspective of what my life was supposed to be, and accepted what the Father's gifts were, and embraced it. And I'm so glad that he called me to be vocal, that he called me to use my voice, that he called me. I thought my voice was going to be doing so many other things, but my voice is doing some very important things for people who can't use their own. And so I'll continue to do that.
And it's interesting. I guess I was fortunate. In a way, I feel I was fortunate. Of course, I think that now. I didn't think that when I was 17 and I had my first grand mal seizure. I thought I was a freak of nature.
Oh.
Total. Here I am. I'm in sports. I'm in football. I am all sports.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am, and I actually started having these seizures, and I went to church one day, and I could feel it coming on. I had to walk out of class, lay down on the ground, and have my fit. I call them their fits, and get back up and walk back into class with grass all over me, and so it was just something I had to endure then. But now, now I make fun of it, and so it's just. But now I'm on medicine that really I'm good. I'm actually really good. It doesn't. But for years, the doctors would try medicines and it wouldn't work, and another medicine that wouldn't work. Let's try this one. And it's like, I don't want to see another neurologist for the rest of my life. I just rather go to an internist and say, give me this medicine. I'll deal it with myself.
Yeah.
Because it's really difficult. I want to ask you about your ministry.
Sure.
Okay. It says here, and I got this off your website, that you're committed to assisting the special needs of families in community resources and referrals. Assisting the special needs, let me finish, single parent and lower income families with health and human resources, educating professionals, law enforcement, and first responders about people with disabilities and proper interactions.
Yes.
That's a mouthful, and that is huge. It's a big undertaking. Help us with this.
Well, as I said, this journey helped me gather a lot of understanding of what it is to raise a special needs child, the dynamics, the effects that it has on the siblings, the effects that it has on you as a mother. And so we decided to start reaching out to those moms. My church, Summit Christian Center, allowed me in 2002 to start a support group, and we called it Parents and Challenges, and we had so many parents come in through that way. We got them the resources, we got them the referrals, we got them the ability to start building their family back together after you've had that crushing diagnosis of autism. And so we had that support group and ministry from 2002 to 2017. What an amazing 15 years that was. And so it helped us collaborate with other agencies. So now that we have our community center, the Regina Reed Center, where we have a food pantry, we have a clothing closet, we have Loads of Love, which is a laundromat free of charge where anybody can go and wash their clothes. We see a lot of homeless teens and families, low-income families, use our facilities. And then we also have Giovanni's Hugs. And Giovanni's Hugs was named after Giovanni Ochoa, whose life was so brutally taken by his family, and he was starved to death and died on Christmas Day. And so we don't want the community to forget about Giovanni, and we raise awareness with that. So Giovanni's Hugs offers diapers, formula, wipes, food for the babies, cribs, strollers, anything that you need to raise that child and not have the anxiety of not having those items. So we have all of that, but we're using all of these services not to only help special needs families, but to help lower income families as well, to be able to guide them through. Again, getting them counseling if they need it, prayer if they so desire, getting them any type of resource that they need. And in this journey, I started speaking to law enforcement about appropriate interactions with our community. To this day, I am still used in that capacity to help advise when an adult with autism is arrested. A lot of times the children with autism or Asperger's don't understand what the consequence is of some of their actions. And a lot of things can be misunderstood, like when they're flapping or when they're echolalic. So you say, "What's your name?" And they'll say, "What's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Why aren't you answering me? Why aren't you answering me?" And so instead of seeing that as being disrespectful, they now understand this person has a communication issue, might be autism. Let's go ahead and respond to it appropriately. There are even some that are incarcerated, and so I get called in, "Hey, can you help us understand what's going on here?" I gladly do that and volunteer my time. I am so proud of our sheriff, and I'm proud of Chief McManus, our chief of police, who so get that this community has gotten bigger. When my son was diagnosed 24 years ago, that ratio was 1 in 1,000. Today, it's 1 in 43. So there's this huge tidal wave of young people that are now in our community and now need a greater amount of understanding.
So I noticed that also on your website you help people to become more self-efficient.
Yes.
Okay, so talk about that.
We have also included in our programs children who've been bullied, women who've experienced domestic violence, and young people who've been trafficked. What we do in those circumstances, and even for the homeless who are now getting back on their feet, we help relocate. We help fill in their apartment with what they need, dishes, clothing, all those other items to build your home, rebuild your home. We offer classes, self-defense classes with Ohana, which is a wonderful group of young Christian men, some that I used to even take care of in nursery, and they have established themselves as being one of our collaborators that respond to women who have been through violence and trafficking. And we support them on their way back up and to understand their worth, which is so important, to understand their worth and understand that God has a huge plan for them. And this trauma, these things that happen in their life, does not define them.
Eagle Flight. That's such a cool name. I mean, I didn't realize, because I've always heard, Susan talk about, Eagle's Flight, and then I read, it's Eagle's Flight, Advocacy and Outreach. It's a long name, but I've always known you as Eagle's Flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's...
Eagle's Flight, listen, I was listening to his sermon, Pastor Barnett, long ago, and he was talking about the characteristics of the eagle. And he talked about how the older ones go through a molting season and they pluck all their feathers out and they break their beak. But they call out and they stay on the cliffs, on the high cliffs, so that predators won't be able to come get them. When they're in that high cliff, they call out to the able-bodied ones, to the ones who are out flying. They call out to them. And when they hear those calls of distress, the other able-bodied ones go into action. Some put water in their beaks to go give them water. Some go and get food to feed them. Others will stand and protect them. But they all work together so that the other disabled eagles will be able to one day fly on their own. They also do that same thing for their young. When they're ready and when they're able to start flying, they will fly alongside them. The little ones get on the backs of the adults and they fly up with them. I immediately started crying when I'm hearing that, but he wasn't finished. So I was a mess at the end of this sermon. He said the eagles also have keen vision, and they're able to see what others are not able to see. I loved that. And then he said this. He said, through the most horrible storms, all the other birds will fly away. The eagle will use that turbulence to set them higher. And they fly higher than all the other birds. And I was a mess after that sermon because God was just preparing me, and I knew it. Man, that the Holy Spirit had just grabbed a hold of me, and I was just, in the back, just because all of these characteristics is what God was applying to my life. And there have been storms. Oh my goodness, there have been storms. But the height of which we've been catapulted has been tremendous.
Yeah. It's amazing when you're really willing to let God use you to the heights and the magnitude that things happen in your life, and that you're able to, the lives you're able to touch because of that.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Just submitting.
Now, you've been wearing, I've noticed you've been wearing the last couple of days or more, this little button. Are you able to share with us about this little girl?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
This is Lena Hill. On December 20th, she was abducted.
Mm-hmm.
She is from Afghanistan. So are her parents. Many, many, many Afghani refugees have come into our city. They had to evacuate. We're understanding what that looks like. Many of them are here in San Antonio. This Lena's father is not just any refugee. He's an SIV, a special immigration visa. SIVs are very, very, they're an elite group. Let me tell you why. When the American forces were in their country, they stepped aside and helped our American forces. They supported the U.S. Army, which put a target on their back as well. So this has been just a very, very disturbing case where it seems like this child has vanished out of thin air. Because I've been working with refugees here in San Antonio since 2009, I helped with the Head Start program and getting all of our babies into the Head Start program. I had 16 different countries in one Head Start facility, and I was their case manager. Since I have the background of working with not only Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindu, Buddhist, I've worked with them all and still remained strong in my belief. And I've been able to just help them navigate, but continue to show them who Jesus is to me and the love of God, being his reflection. So when this happened, I was called and said, Pam, you're going to have to come support this family because no one understands them like you do or serves them like you do. And I said, yep, I'll be there. And I was of the same belief too. She's in somebody's house. No, she's with another family. Look, they're going to find her. No, they're going to find her. And I'm watching this on TV. No, Shirley. Okay, yeah, they're going to find her. And they didn't. And the Afghani children in all of the facilities or the apartment complexes they're at, they're all like a school of fish. They run this way, they come back. All of the parents, they leave their doors open, during the day, because they all run into one house, come back in, get a drink, go into another house. They're all running around. And so they've had to change even the way they are used to living in their community, because that's not how you can live here in our environment. So it's been difficult. The mother is now 6 months pregnant. They have a 2-year-old son. I will tell you this, the depth of their sorrow is immeasurable. Sitting next to that mother as she's showing me pictures of her daughter on her phone, and I pray. I prayed, God, please, you know where this baby is. Please bring her home. We have to just continue to love on them, support them, and it's just a very tragic situation.
Yeah. And I have one more I want to ask you about. On the beacon in here, you have a picture of this little beautiful little girl. Elena is her name.
Elena, what a light she is.
And from what I've read, she's the victim of an abuse situation of her home. Her mother was killed by her father.
Right.
And tell us, what do you do for Elena? What is your role in this situation?
So through my journey, I started burying infants and children who were abandoned or abused. Abandoned meaning found in a trash can, side of the highway, or that had been abused by their parents. We started doing that. Elena's family contacted me because they could not bury their daughter, Andreen McDonald, who was brutally murdered, and then her body was discovered months later. They didn't have the money to bury their daughter, and it was so tragic. So, I talked to one of my funders, and I said, listen, I know what I've been funded for, but I'm going to ask you, let me step out of this box. This mama, she needs to be buried. And that little girl with autism, they had their electricity because the accused perpetrator, which is the father, he took all the money that was in the account to support his daughter and did not allow any funding to help her. So they were without electricity, without food, and they had just found the body of her mother. So when I said this to one of my funders, they said, I want to do it. I'm going to send you the money, and I'm going to send you extra. Go turn their lights on, get them the food, get them everything that they need. Oh my gosh, Pam. I mean, this was a horrendous case. This was a brutal case, a case that is still going on. And so that's exactly what I did. I took care of their the funeral. I made sure that they have everything that they need. Elena does have autism, and Elena is just a bright, bright light. What I do now, as the years have gone by, make sure that they have enough for Thanksgiving, make sure that she has Christmas gifts. That's the picture that they took of us there, was when she got to have a private visitation with Santa and the Grinch, and got to ride a fire truck. And so they come to our little ranch to get that type of therapy and respite. I do walk alongside them when they have need and continue to buy her clothing. I bought her all of her winter clothing, and let me tell you, Ellen, I felt, and I was weeping. I was shopping for clothing for this little girl, and I'm like, God, I wished her mom was able to do this. What would her mom have picked out? Would she have picked out this pink dress? Would she have gotten these sassy shoes for Elena? Would she have done this? And I'm sitting there shopping, and it just hit me all at once. This baby girl doesn't have her mama to shop for her. And what an honor it was for me. And I tried to get the sassiest clothes that I could find, because Elena is a little sassy. But it really touched my heart that she didn't have her mama to do that for her. But what an honor it was for me to do that. And it was that one of those moments that you get so captured in, and just I'm doing a happy thing and getting these cute clothes, but weeping as I'm doing it. I'm sure people at Walmart didn't understand that, but it really touches me. There's 2 families that mothers have been taken through domestic violence, that through the years I've stood with them and buy their clothes and buy their shoes and get in a place where, gosh, I wish their mother was here to do this for them.
Yeah.
That's hurtful.
So I would like you to tell our viewers, what can they do if they feel moved to want to help you and help your ministry? What is it that they can do? Where can they go and
Yes, no, absolutely. I love that question. Thank you. We will always need food at our food pantry, canned goods, non-perishable items. We always need towels and sheets as well as shoes because we have so many come in. We need that at our community center, which is called the Regina Reed Community Center. It's at 216 Purcell, 216 Purcell off of Acme and 90. So they can definitely take donations there Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3. If they'd like to visit our website at eaglesflightsa.com and make a monetary donation, that would be great too, because that helps us go a far, far way. We do, when we feed families and give them food, we put in meat, eggs, milk. We put in a lot of organics that we get from Trader Joe's. Hallelujah, Trader Joe's. And then we give them the canned stuff. So we do have Trader Joe's annually. Just with Trader Joe's, we feed up to 25,000 people. Wow. Just with Trader Joe's. So the other half is done through what we purchase and through our collaborations with other organizations in San Antonio.
So no powdered milk.
No powdered milk. The only powdered milk is formula. And right now, with all the formula being recalled, we're getting a lot of nervous moms. I can't find formula. So we get off of Amazon. We have some of our employees that'll go stake places out. Oh, they've got it. Let's get it. And so just for the viewers and listeners' information, if formula is running short for your baby, please come see us, because we are very well stocked with what's been going on with the recall in formula.
And you have now on our website, if all of you want to go read about Pamela or the Eagles Flight, you can go to our website as well on the guest page, and you can her bio is there, her little logo is there. You click on it, goes right to your website. Yeah. And you have a donation page on your website.
Yes, we do.
So feel free to go there, and it'll be up forever and a day. So, but this is amazing. This is wonderful. It's just really, really cool. My wife actually pushed me to call you. And
well, I'm glad she did.
She's like, you need to talk to Pamela. I mean, so getting together has been a while. Yeah. And actually, we met with a Christian Business Chamber.
Yes.
You and my wife were both on the board at the same time.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, that was interesting. So, anyway, let's move on to our topic, biblical topic, which is actually the whole chapter of Isaiah 58. I'm not sure we'll be able to cover the entire chapter.
Not at all.
But before we get started, I wanted to preface this because the first two verses actually preface the entire chapter, which after studying and more studying, I realized this, because we can read through this and not even have a clue what it really means, except for maybe a verse here or a verse there. But the first two verses say this. It says, shout, now God is speaking, okay, shout aloud and do not hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Okay, of course back then, declare to my people their transgression, or we can translate that word into rebellion. Okay, and to the descendants of Jacob their sins. For day after day they seek me out. Now they're seeking out God, okay? This is what he's saying. They seem eager to know my ways, as if they were the nation, or a nation that does what is right and has not forsaken the commands of its God. They ask me for just decisions, and they seem eager for God to come near them. Now, these are the first two verses. Now, what's really interesting is that word I mentioned that could be translated from transgression to rebellion. Actually, it means it's a moral rebellion or religious rebellion. So God is speaking to their hearts. We all think about the Old Testament is all about things, do's and don'ts, and legal stuff, but God speaks to the heart in the Old Testament more than we ever can imagine. And he's talking about their moral and religious transgression against God, rebellion against God. That's how he starts this, because the very thing that I know that you covet in the 12th verse is all about the way we take care of people, right? So it's interesting. And then verse 2, real quickly, where it says, they seek me daily and delight to know my ways as a nation that did righteousness and did not forsake the ordinances of their God. It's almost like you can compare what God is telling the Israelites then, the Jews then, to what we're telling our people in our country today. We have a lot of people who call themselves Christians running around wanting to do the right thing, saying they want to do the right thing, living in churches in the right religious ways. But God is saying, you're all in sin because you're not really seeking me. You're really just putting off this persona that's not really from the heart.
Yeah.
So,
I've seen that, and in this journey so many times, especially when he sends the disciples out, he said, they'll know you are mine by the love. And that's simple, that very simplistic, by the love that you show, by the love. He's not asking for IDs or what a religious affiliation. He's not saying that you have to seek any of that, but just seek him and be an example of his love. How many times they've missed the mark on this.
Yeah. That brings up the issue of today. I'm going to veer off a little bit because we're all pretty conscious of what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And everybody who watches my program knows that I am locked in with Moldova. I go there every year. I teach there. I speak there. The missionaries there are like my children. I mean, it's like I teach them. And so I am so proud of these believers, of these different denominations, of these different organizations, of these different churches that have all come together. I am looking at pictures from one group with pictures of the facilities of a different group. And I'm looking at this different group with pictures of facilities in this other group. And they're helping each other to help the people from Ukraine come to safety, feed them, they're getting clothing and beds. They went out, was one group, bought 11 bunk beds so 22 people can sleep. And they're helping each other doing this to get to safety and maybe eventually go on to Romania or another country. And it's like, hello, America. I mean, here's the poorest country in all of Europe, and look what they're doing out of love and respect for God.
It's pretty amazing. I love
really
watching
is.
that.
And the whole chapter speaks of this.
Yes.
It really does.
Yep, that's my passion chapter. I that motivates me each and every day. It has just been one of the, feed the hungry, clothe the naked. It so moved me almost 30 years ago, having this chapter proclaimed over my life, that I don't lose sight of that. I don't lose sight of that when I'm shopping for these babies that don't have a mama to do that for them, or I'm delivering diapers and formula to a grandmother who had to take her grandchild in because CPS deemed it necessary. That is the song within my heart, this Isaiah 58. So it keeps me moving.
And I'm going to say a real bold thing here. It's a real blunt thing. But I had another ministry in here, I don't know, last year sometime. And they do close to what you need to know each other. I need to introduce you guys. But they talked about how they help people and with food and with furniture and help them try to get them before they become homeless to keep them.
Right.
Okay, so they've been asked, and I'm sure there's been many groups, maybe even you have been asked, well, are these only Christians that you do this with? And they said, no, we do it for anybody. Well, then I'm not going to help you.
Yep.
And then they'll say, there's the other comments like, well, if these people got themselves in this position, they can get themselves out. I'm not going to help you. I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
Yep.
You say you believe in the scriptures, but you don't want to walk the scriptures? It's really disgusting. I mean this really totally. I'm being really blunt here.
Go right ahead.
But I think it's amazing. Jesus walked up to groups, and he didn't ask them, are you Christians? If you are, I'll feed you. No, he just saw that they're hungry and I'll feed these people, and then he talked to them. He didn't say, well, are you a believer, then I'll heal you? I mean, no. I mean, what's wrong with people today? I don't understand. They don't understand the scriptures. And the very thing in this here, in 58, it talks about they're acting like they're Christians, but not living like they're Christians. And he's saying, when you feed the poor, when you do these things, he's talking about building their streets and all this stuff. But really, I never thought about this, but God speaks even in the Old Testament, in parables. Because all this stuff we're talking about, building the streets and all the relics and all these other things, is about building your heart from what you're doing wrong to make it right inside you. I mean, it's just amazing. This passage, and I never really took light of this before until you told me 58. Isaiah 58, man, let me read that. And I had to dig into it because more and more of it spoke different, and yet it spoke the very words of Jesus, wasn't. We think about when Jesus said, and we hear everybody talk about it in Matthew 25, if those of you who, visited me in prison or fed me, clothed me, et cetera, that's not new.
Right.
It's in 58, Isaiah. It's right there.
It is. And then the passage that says, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, break the yoke of oppression, that was extremely, went right to the heart, because the yoke of oppression looks different for different people in our community. That lady who's gone through abuse and feels like she can't leave, that's a different type of oppression. Those children who are watching that happen, that's a different type of oppression. The young person who's been trafficked, the homeless person who doesn't even know how to get back on their feet again. It all looks different to what type of a person we have in our community. And so it never once, when I read about Jesus in action, it was so much action and the words came after. But he acted everything out first in his action, in touching, in healing. And then after some of the oppression, when you look at the people healing them, when the oppression was lifted, then he began speaking. And I love that example that he gives to us. But yes, you're right. Isaiah 58 lays it out there for us. And I love the end part of it too, where it talks about being the repairer of the breach. You will be known as the repairer of the breach. I need a t-shirt that says repairer of the breach. I love that, because the breach can mean so many different things to so many different people.
Yeah. I mean, back to Moldova again, it's just really interesting, and the news doesn't cover this as much as I think they should, but because they cover all these people refugees going into Poland, but I know there's been over 100,000 refugees going into Moldova. Moldova is the poorest country in all of Europe. And these missionaries, these different groups that I know of, and I support some, and I am part of their lives, I'm watching them drive to the Ukrainian border and drive back into their capital and put them up for the night. In their own homes, in their churches and buildings, they're renting camp places to put these people up, or they're driving them all the way to Romania to get them to safety and get them someplace. So to me, it's interesting because I have had so many stories from these missionaries that will tell me that these people come in and they're just like in trauma. They're lost. They're just like, wow, my whole world is gone. It's upside down. They're leaving. You see this on the news. They're leaving their country with a suitcase.
Yep.
Can you imagine leaving your home and everything you own, having only in a suitcase? I told that to my wife. Can you imagine that? I mean, that's it. And he goes, yeah, it's hard to imagine. But here they are in these people's homes, in these people's buildings, and they're like, why are you doing this? You don't know me. And that opens the door up to, well, let me introduce you to my Jesus. And this is that other ministry group told me the same thing. We help these people because they need help. They need food. They need something. And then when we come to the door and they ask us, why would you do this? Well, let me share you my Jesus.
Yeah.
It's the door that opens. It's like people don't understand this who are so blinded to the fact that they are puffed up in their own stuff, as we read in Isaiah 58 and also in Matthew 25.
Yep.
They're just closed their hearts. And I think if these people would read their Bibles, they realize we better get it right.
Yes.
The interesting thing about 58, the first part of it talks about, and this is a pet peeve of mine, it talks about fasting.
True fasting.
And today's, some preachers, some churches, some things, they talk about fasting as giving up something. Like if you want to give up your soda for a day or for a week, if you want to give up your French fries, this is not fasting, And it's not about giving something up. It's about taking the time to set aside to pray to God during the period of time that you're giving up whatever meal you're giving up for the purpose of getting closer to God and
Right. Drawing in.
Talk to me about this. Talk to us about how you see this.
When I looked at that and they talked about the true fasting, and I'm like, I believe like you do, it's that time to draw in and draw near and draw closer. And then it goes straight into, this is the true fasting. One that feeds the hungry, clothes the naked, breaks the yoke of oppression, puts away malicious finger pointing. And it goes on talking about true fasting looks like this. And it is giving of your time to draw closer. It is giving of your time to serve humanity. Because this is the example that Jesus gives us all the time about the true servant's heart. And it starts and it blends in with the fasting and I believe the way you do too. So you've given up soda. Well, your body will probably thank you for that. But what is the experience that you had with the Lord through that?
Yeah.
How did God speak to you through that? And that to me is most important.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, even Jesus he makes a comment about the Pharisee standing there, I fast twice a week. Well, yeah, big deal. I mean, what are you doing with your life? It's like when I was over in Jerusalem and I'm looking at these, they call them Orthodox Jews, but I guess they're the Levites,
Right.
and so I asked our tour guide, so what do? Well, they study the Bible. And, well, they just study the Bible. So they don't work. No, they don't work. They just study the Bible. Well, do they teach whatever they studied? He goes, no, they just continue to study. So there's no benefit from them studying to the rest of the population in Israel because they do nothing else but study. I says, that's ridiculous. That's not even what God wants us to do, is just read and don't do anything.
Right.
And we've become that over here. Many people have become the same thing. Oh, I read my Bible to my little tract, my little daily bread, and I'm good for the day. And then they've done nothing with their life for the day. And Jesus speaks of this. The Bible speaks of this. Isaiah 58 speaks of this. And I think, he goes into the Sabbath. The last two verses go into the Sabbath,
Right.
If you don't, you need to give up your own worldly or your own pleasures for my holy day. And once you understand that you're giving my holy day the benefit of what it needs, then you'll be blessed. I was like, how many people said, well, I don't want to go to church today. I think I'll go play golf instead. I'll be with God. It's
Yeah.
like, come on, people.
Yeah.
Do you not really? I mean, they want to have the title Christian because they don't want to burn. They want to go have that fire insurance, but they don't want to follow the teachings.
Right.
And it's so amazing. And what's what I think is amazing about you and your ministry and your testimony is powerful because of I'm following God. He is giving me this, and I'm not going to just let it go. And it seems like at every step that you take, you're allowing him to touch your heart, because obviously you're allowing the tears to flow, and you're allowing your work to happen to benefit other people.
Absolutely. Because what I say to myself and even to my staff, if you've done anything today, reflect the love of the Father. Please. Because this is a community that's hurting. Reflect the love of the Father. And they understand. They understand what it is I need from them. Even though people are hurting and angry and come in, you still have to reflect the love of the Father. And it's not always, it's not a picnic, but if they could see that from someone today, it may be the turning point for their life.
Yeah. Verse 12, real quick, and we're going to be running out of time here, but verse 12 says, your people will rebuild the ancient ruins, okay? I made reference to this earlier, and will rise up the age-old foundations, and you will be called repairer of the broken walls, restorer of streets and dwellings. This is where I'm saying that I think God is speaking to us in a parable. And I've written something here. I saw this, and I've kind of want to bring this to the table. I've kind of put my own stuff in it together. Yeah. It says this verse from Isaiah appears to call the people to repair the walls, the physical walls, and restore their city. That's what it appears to be. But actually, it's a promise to the people of what they can achieve if they will do the will of God.
Yes, absolutely, and I believe that too. I believe the walls and the foundations, all of it, needs to be repaired. But that, you feel about it the same way that I do, within someone's spirit, with their brokenness, with their with what they've experienced throughout their life, the trauma in their life, that all needs to be repaired. Yeah. And we have a Savior who does that. We have the ability to tell them, listen, this is what I've gone through, and this broke me, all these broken pieces, but how beautiful that restoration is, and that when the repair and maintenance goes in, how amazing is that dwelling. And the foundation is the Word of God. The foundation is the acceptance of Jesus as their Savior, and the continuing to follow His example. And I'll continue to walk this walk. It's not always easy. This journey has not been easy. It's been rather harsh at times. But at those moments, that's when I know I'm to push in, and I'm to continue to walk. And, I'm grateful that I have a husband who understands what my assignment is and completely supports that. I have children, even so sometimes it's been uncomfortable, that they understand, no, Mom, keep going. And I'm like, yeah. I will, honey.
Well, I learned something really valuable. Now, I've been going to Moldova for about 10 years or more, something like that. And I learned something very valuable from one of the missionaries. His name is Radu. I talk about him. He was actually on my program, I think, in November when I was in Moldova. And but years ago, he said something, because I was teaching in a public school about Jesus, about, making decisions and this and that. And I made it sound real like you hear what we talk here in sermons here, about the Bible and Jesus, this and that and whatever. So after this first class I talked to, he pulled me aside and says, no. People in Moldova think God is okay, the Bible is okay. What they don't understand is that you need to live the teachings of Jesus. It's not just that Jesus says, I understand Jesus and I love Jesus and that's all it is. It's no, are you following the teachings? Are you living the teachings of Jesus? And that changed my entire voice, that I speak and teach now. It's just like, are you living and breathing and walking the teachings of the scriptures of Jesus? That's what truly makes you a believer.
Yes. In sitting with the Afghani community, and of course they are Muslim, we've opened up about our beliefs. Some of the ones that I've trusted, and they said, it's the issue of Jesus. And I said, yeah, let's talk about Jesus. Please, let's. And they said, well, it's that your belief that he is the Savior. And I said, no, absolutely. And they said, but we believe him as a prophet. And I said, okay, and I get that. that was one of our first conversations. As we've come through and gone through this with Lena, one of them just told me this a couple of days ago, because there's been a lot of things happening in that case, and it's so severe. And because it's hit national news, unfortunately, I get unwanted attention. But he said this, "You truly do walk the life of Jesus, don't you?" I said, "Now you get it. Now you understand." And this is a Muslim. So I was like, all right.
With a belief system in a world with no hope, Jesus offers and gives that hope.
Yes.
It's really amazing.
All the time.
This has been totally amazing, Pamela. I just really am so thankful that you are here.
Thank you
I'm
for
thankful
having
for your
me.
ministry. And I really, if you are so inclined, make sure you pray for this ministry. If you're so inclined to give to it, go to our website, go to her website, and offer your support. If you live in San Antonio, they can use your support in so many different ways. Just call them and ask them. So that is the end of our program today, and all of you, everybody in the world today, I know there's been tensions. Just keep close to the Lord. Jesus really wants to see us draw close to Him. Thank you for joining me today. Have a wonderful week. Aloha.
Alan Cutting and the Believer's Journey radio program seeks to teach the Word of God in a clear and practical manner. For more information, please visit the podcast page at am630theword.com.